What began as a sweet match on a dating app slowly turned into a relationship where parents, money, and control dictated every step. This story shows how easy it is to confuse romance with submission, and how hard it is to escape once you stop setting boundaries. I was 24 when this whole tragicomic story kicked off. Still living with my parents, grinding away at my job, diligently saving every spare penny for a down payment on a mortgage. The classic young adult dream of finally having my own four walls. I'd always been excessively romantic, the kind of guy who sees poetry in everyday moments. And let's be honest, most people don't really fall for overly romantic butterflies like that. Maybe that's exactly why, up until then, I'd never had anything serious or long-term. One evening, I matched with a strikingly beautiful girl on a dating app. Let's call her Anna. She was 20, studying to become an English teacher, also still living with her parents. Our early messages flowed easily. Her replies were warm, enthusiastic, full of little emojis and genuine interest. I didn't waste time. The very next day, I suggested meeting up. She said she'd love to, but she couldn't because she had to prepare for exams. I remember thinking, wow, what a serious, responsible girl. A couple more days of chatting, and I finally managed to coax her out for a first date in the park. Walking and talking, I learned she'd been a straight-A student her whole life. Gold medal, red diploma, the works. She carried herself with this quiet, almost old-fashioned decency. She described herself, unprompted, as a proper homebody kind of girl. Honestly, I often think women could teach men a masterclass in self-presentation. The way she casually painted herself in the most flattering light, without sounding arrogant. You just couldn't help but fall a little. By the end of that walk, when I was seeing her home, I leaned in and kissed her. She didn't pull away. The very next evening, I met up with friends at a bar. My best friend, let's call him Daniel, posted a group photo on social media. Not even 5 minutes later, a message from Anna pops up. She's trying very delicately to figure out where I am and who I'm with. I told her straight, just friends, having a drink, nothing more. She replied with something sweet, wished me a good night and added, half joking, half serious,
Just don't stare at other girls, okay?
and that was it. Out of nowhere, without any grand declarations or dramatic buildup, the most serious relationship of my life simply began. Our second date felt light and easy at first. Touches that lingered a little longer, kisses stolen between laughs, silly jokes flying back and forth. But even my gentle teasing, the kind meant to flirt and poke fun, made her pout or pull back slightly, as if I'd crossed some invisible line. I brushed it off. Maybe she was just sensitive, or maybe I was too sarcastic sometimes. We were sitting in a cozy cafe mid-conversation when my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered out of habit.
Hello, this is Anna's mother. I tried calling her, but she isn't picking up. Probably didn't hear it. Is everything okay over there?
Anna was 20 years old, on a date. In the middle of the afternoon, not midnight. Yet here was her mom, tracking her down through my number somehow. It sent a cold ripple through me. Not just the call itself, but the fact that her mother had found a way to get my contact in the first place. That alone spoke volumes about their dynamic, and honestly, about Anna too. I handed the phone over without a word. Anna took it, spoke quietly for a minute, reassured her everything was fine, and hung up looking a bit embarrassed but not surprised. The conversation shifted after that. She opened up a little about her family. Her dad worked grueling days renovating apartments, out the door at 8 a.m., home after 6 p.m., no days off, year after year. Her mom had fallen seriously ill a few years back and hadn't worked a single day in her entire life, even before the health issues. The picture painted itself. A household where one parent carried everything financially and physically, the other stayed home, and boundaries seemed fluid at best. That phone call wasn't just a minor interruption. It was a deafening bell ringing right in my face. A massive clanging alarm that screamed future complications. But I was the hopeless romantic, remember? Part of me even found it oddly endearing. Protective family, close-knit, caring. How naive can one guy be? The third date escalated everything to a whole new level of surreal. We were wrapping up the evening, another walk, more kisses, the usual sweet tension, when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, typed something quickly, then looked up at me with this oddly calm expression.
Mom's waiting for us. She says we should come over in 15 minutes.
And I went. Just like that. No protest, no maybe another time, no polite excuse. I simply nodded, took her hand, and followed her to the apartment building I'd already dropped her off at twice before. Looking back, what kind of 24-year-old man lets that happen? You're an adult. You could have said, gently but firmly, "Listen, that feels way too fast for me. I'm not ready to meet your parents after 3 dates." It would have been completely normal. Healthy, even. Her mother could dream whatever she wanted, could fantasize about dragging me home for tea and approval. But at that point, Anna was still basically a stranger. Her mom's opinion shouldn't have carried any real weight. And yet I walked right into it. We sat at their kitchen table like I was on the world's most awkward job interview. Tea in mismatched cups, Anna mostly silent, staring at her hands. Her mother fired questions. Where I worked, what my plans were. Did I like children? How did I feel about family values? I answered politely, mechanically, while the clock ticked louder in my head with every passing minute. Later that night, I met a friend of mine, Daniel, at our usual spot. Over a couple of cold beers, I spilled the entire bizarre evening. When I showed him Anna's photo on my phone, his face changed.
Dude, I know her. Pretty sure she's married.
The words landed like a slap. He wasn't joking. He'd seen her before, maybe at some mutual friends gathering, and the rumor was she had a husband. I laughed it off at first, nervous, disbelieving laughter, then asked her directly the next time we met. She looked down, eyes instantly glassy, voice barely above a whisper.
Yes, it's true. I just didn't know how to tell you. He's not really my husband anymore, not in any real way. He used to live here with me and my parents, but Dad kicked him out. We've already filed for divorce. It's just paperwork now.
She sounded so small, so fragile in that moment. Part of me wanted to believe her, wanted to see it as messy young love gone wrong rather than a deliberate omission. And honestly, a past marriage at 20? Unusual, sure, but not impossible. People make mistakes early. But the real issue wasn't the almost ex-husband. It was the pattern. The phone call to my number on the second date, the sudden mom's waiting on the third, the way her mother had already sized me up from the window and declared us two angels walking together. Only to casually add that I seemed like a bit of a player. We even laughed about that comment together. Laughed. As if it were cute. The truth was settling in slowly, heavily. This wasn't just a girl with an overprotective mother and a complicated past. This was someone whose entire life seemed to orbit around mom's approval, mom's surveillance, mom's script. And I had stepped right onto the stage without reading the fine print. After that conversation, she unloaded a torrent of venom about her almost ex-husband. He was a scoundrel, a liar, a manipulator. Every classic insult you can imagine. The kind of guy who, according to her, treated every woman like dirt and left a trail of broken hearts. I listened, nodded, let her words sink in. By the end of it, I genuinely felt a surge of protective anger toward this faceless man I'd never met. Poor Anna, I thought. She'd been through hell. She even declared an official start date for us. From that moment on, we marked it every single month like idiots in love. Small gifts, sweet messages, a little ritual dinner or walk. Mutual effort, at least. No one-sided obligation that would have felt like a chore. Still, looking back, it was bizarre. If something inside you whispers that this monthly anniversary thing feels forced, performative, unnecessary, why not say it? Why go along with a 20-year-old girl dictating the pace and rules of your relationship when part of you already sensed it was off? But I didn't speak up. I let her lead. And that says everything about me at the time. Too romantic, too eager to please, too afraid of rocking the boat when things were finally feeling serious. She invested too, financially and emotionally. Not quite 50-50, more like 40 from her, 60 from me. But she showed up. She tried. The problem wasn't the effort, it was the foundation. How exactly had these relations even begun? When? There was no clear moment, no mutual agreement, just her momentum pulling me along and me following because it felt nice to be wanted. Then came the bombshell. She announced, very matter-of-factly, that she had a firm principle. No sex before marriage. I blinked. She'd already been married once. Presumably, she and her ex had been intimate, at least after their wedding. So this rule applied retroactively? Only to new relationships? Only to me? It felt like a double standard dressed up as virtue. If she followed strict religious or moral convictions, orthodox values perhaps, then divorce itself should have been off the table. Once you're married in the church, you stay married for life. Yet here she was, already divorced, or divorcing, with a past that included physical intimacy, now imposing a no-sex-before-marriage boundary on us. I accepted it. Didn't push, didn't question too hard. Told myself it was respectable, admirable even. Told myself romance could survive without that part for now. But deep down, it gnawed at me. Another condition I quietly swallowed because saying no or this doesn't work for me felt riskier than just going along. She could believe whatever she wanted. She could set whatever rules she chose. The real question was mine to answer. Did I accept her terms? Was I willing to play by them? At the time, apparently, yes. I was still too enchanted by the idea of us to see how much I was bending myself to fit her frame. Winter evenings became our routine. We'd alternate, sometimes at her place, sometimes at mine, curling up on the couch under a blanket to watch movies. The cold outside made it feel cozy, intimate, almost normal. Over time, things progressed in that half-light of the TV screen. My hands wandered. I touched her everywhere she let me, learned her body by feel, brought her to shuddering orgasms with slow, careful fingers. She'd bite her lip, arch against me, whisper my name like a secret. And a couple of times, God, those times, she returned the favor. Her small hand on me, hesitant at first, then bolder, until I was the one gasping, coming undone while she watched my face with quiet fascination. In those moments, I felt like the luckiest man alive. Pure, electric happiness. But even then, the dynamic was crystal clear. She decided. Always. How far we went, how much pleasure was on the table when it stopped. It was never mutual negotiation. It was her portioning out affection and release the way a cafeteria lady slops porridge onto your tray. Enough to keep you coming back, but never more than she deemed you deserved. Be a good boy, get a treat, step out of line, or sometimes just exist too independently. And you're left hungry. That's not how healthy desire works. That's not the foundation for anything lasting or equal. It's conditioning dressed up as romance. And yet I stayed, because the highs felt so good, because I told myself the lows were just part of learning each other. At her place especially, the rules were unspoken but ironclad. Her mom was always in the next room, watching TV, cooking, puttering around, but she never once opened the door, never interrupted. They had an arrangement, a family code. Hands and mouths were apparently permissible in the living room, as long as nothing crossed the final line. Full sex? Strictly off limits until a wedding ring was on her finger. That much she'd made explicit from the start. Later, piecing it together from offhand comments she let slip, I realized this wasn't some sudden personal conviction. It came straight from her mother, from childhood. The same woman who'd called my phone on our second date, who'd summoned us home on the third, had apparently sat her daughter down years earlier and delivered the gospel.
Sweetheart, you can take him in your mouth if you want. You can swallow, that's fine. But never, ever give yourself completely. Don't let him have your flower. Save that for marriage.
A rule book written in double standards. Partial intimacy okay, total surrender forbidden. Divorce okay, apparently. But virginity, or the illusion of it, must be preserved for the next man in line. And me? I accepted the menu she offered, didn't push back, didn't say, "This feels unequal, this feels controlled." I just took what was given, grateful for the scraps, convinced that patience and romance would eventually unlock the rest. Spoiler, they didn't. My girl kept holding the line firm. No full sex, no exceptions. Even when I suggested renting a place for the day, something neutral and private, she shot it down immediately. Other locations? Forget it. Her principles were non-negotiable, or so it seemed. Until one afternoon when her parents were both out for hours. The apartment was empty, quiet. Ours. We ended up in her room. Clothes came off slowly, and for once the boundaries dissolved. It happened. Real, complete, no holding back. She let go. I felt triumphant. Afterward, she even sent me a little message with a winking emoji.
You're such a handsome devil.
I grinned at my phone like an idiot, thinking I'd finally broken through, that I'd earned it, that this was the turning point. How wrong I was. Looking back, that moment wasn't a victory. It was just her deciding the time was right. On her terms, in her space, when she felt in control. Nothing had really changed in the power dynamic. If anything, it reinforced it. She gave when she chose to give. I was still waiting for permission. Her circle was tiny and telling. She had one close friend, but from what little she shared, it sounded more like surface-level acquaintance than real trust. No late-night confessions, no gossiping about boyfriends, no raw honesty. Her true confidant, the person she turned to for everything, was Mom. Always Mom. Best friend, advisor, gatekeeper, all rolled into one. I tried to bring her into my world, invited her to hang out with my friends, casual drinks, nothing wild.
I don't drink.
She said.
I'll feel uncomfortable.
Fair enough, I thought. Then a buddy's birthday rolled around. Group outing to a climbing wall, active, fun, no alcohol involved. She bailed at the last minute. Another friend organized laser tag, energetic, silly, zero drinking. Again, no. I went alone both times, came home to sulky messages.
You left me by myself while you went to have fun.
I ended up apologizing, like I'd committed some betrayal by living my own life for a couple of hours. It was exhausting. I started walking on eggshells around my own social life. Meeting my parents took half a year to arrange, and even then it felt forced. She kept delaying, finding excuses, until I finally insisted. The dinner went fine on the surface. Polite smiles, small talk, but the whole thing left a sour taste. Why did introducing her to my family feel like pulling teeth when her mom had practically dragged me into their kitchen on date 3? Even the romance, the thing I'd always prided myself on, started to feel inadequate. The sweet, sometimes cheesy messages I used to send, the ones that made other girls roll their eyes or ghost me, suddenly weren't enough for her.
You've gotten so dry lately.
She'd say, pouting.
Everything's fine, but you don't write like you used to.
If I didn't text for a few hours, the lips would purse. The passive-aggressive silence would settle in. I literally started timing my replies, calculating the exact window to message so I wouldn't trigger another round of guilt tripping. What had once been playful, heartfelt exchanges turned into a grim routine. Texting became a job. Check the clock, craft the right level of affection, hit send before the complaints started. The joy drained out of it. I was performing romance instead of feeling it. And still, I stayed. Still convinced that if I just tried harder, wrote sweeter, apologized more, gave more, she'd finally relax, open up, let things be equal. They never did. Here's the moment I still replay in my head like a bad movie scene. Pure tragicomedy, painted in gray winter light. We were walking along the embankment. Sky low and heavy, air damp and cold. Anna stopped suddenly, turned to me with that signature dramatic sad look she'd perfected. Big eyes glistening, lips trembling just enough to look vulnerable without actually crying yet.
How do you see our future together?
She asked, voice soft but loaded.
I need seriousness from you.
I did what I always did. Smiled, pulled her close, kissed her forehead, cracked a gentle joke. Everything's good with us, baby. Don't worry. She nodded, seemed to calm down. Crisis averted, or so I thought. Next time I came over to her place, the question had already migrated upstairs. Her parents, both of them this time, started asking from the living room doorway, casual as if discussing the weather.
So, young man, how serious are your intentions toward our daughter?
Coincidence? Yeah, right. Not in a million years. I panicked quietly, smiled wider, said the magic words they clearly wanted to hear. Very serious. In time, Anna and I will get married. They beamed. I exhaled. Thought I'd bought myself breathing room. Wrong, dead wrong. A month later, she hit me point blank, no preamble.
When are we getting married?
By then, she'd officially finalized the divorce, taken back her maiden name, looked freer on paper. I tried to laugh it off, deflect with humor. Didn't work. She stared, waiting. I scrambled. After you finish university, 2 more years, right? We'll do it properly then. Instant meltdown. Tears, snot, shaking voice, the full performance.
How could you lie to me like that? Lie to my parents. You basically proposed in front of them.
I hadn't proposed. I'd said in time to shut down the interrogation. But in her script, and apparently her mother's script, that counted as a promise. I backpedaled, folded, promised half a year. 6 months. That was the new deadline I pulled out of thin air to stop the crying. I can see the whole picture clearly now. Her mother had raised her to believe a woman's purpose is to find a successful man who can provide, then settle into a life of baking pies, raising a daughter who'll inherit exactly the same playbook. Generational doll of control and dependency. The father? He's just the galley slave. Works dawn till dusk, keeps his mouth shut, gets put in his place the second he tries to speak up. He might puff out his chest when guests are around, play at being the man of the house. But everyone knows the truth. He's nobody. Mother and daughter run the show, and they're professionals at it. They had me measured, boxed, and delivered before I even realized the package was sealed. Right now, if I could jump in a time machine, I'd go back to that exact walk by the river and kick my own ass. Better yet, back to the day I first stepped into their kitchen. I'd turn around and run. A few weeks later, she threw the engagement ring I'd stupidly bought across the room. More tears, more accusations.
Your romance is gone. You don't even try anymore.
Our monthly anniversary rolled around again. I woke up early, bought the biggest bouquet the flower shop had, showed up at her door at 10 a.m. while she was still asleep. Knelt by the bed like some fairy tale prince. Held out the ring. Asked the question. She said yes, of course. And just like that, I'd done it. Locked myself in. Perfect, just perfect. Around that time, my salary was decent, but nothing special by city standards. Just enough to get by, save a little, dream about that apartment down payment. Then Anna's dad, already seeing me as future son-in-law material, stepped in with an offer I couldn't or didn't refuse. He had a friend who ran a company in the exact field I actually cared about, the one where my heart had always leaned, unlike the soul-crushing job I was grinding through before. Better pay, real prospects, work that didn't make me hate Mondays. He made a call, pulled strings, and suddenly I had an interview that wasn't really an interview. They shook my hand, welcomed me aboard, done. On paper, it looked like a gift from the universe. Who turns down a step up like that? But deep down, even then, a quiet voice whispered, "This isn't clean. This isn't your win. This is her father handing you a golden ticket with his name stamped on the back." It wasn't a buddy helping a buddy. It was future father-in-law securing his daughter's future provider. And once you accept that kind of help, you're not just taking a job, you're taking on debt. Not financial, emotional, relational, invisible. Every paycheck comes with strings now. Every promotion, if it ever comes, will feel borrowed. Every day in that office, you'll remember exactly who opened the door. I should have said no. Politely, firmly. "Thank you so much, I really appreciate it, but I want to handle this myself." Even if it meant staying on a smaller salary for another year, grinding through more interviews, proving myself without the family shadow hanging over me. Even if it delayed the good life by a bit. Independence has a price, but so does dependency. And the second one usually costs more in the end. Because let's be real, when someone gets you in through the back door, especially when that someone is your girlfriend's dad, respect from colleagues rarely follows. You're the guy who came via recommendation. The guy who didn't earn the spot the hard way. And if things go south with Anna, if the engagement fizzles, if the wedding never happens, you're gone. Not because of performance, not because of some screw-up, just because the connection that got you in no longer exists. Nepotism hires often get nepotism fired. It's the unspoken rule. I didn't see it then, or maybe I did and chose not to. I was still wearing those rose-tinted glasses, still high on the idea that everything was falling into place perfectly. No stressful job hunt, no rejections, no proving myself from scratch. Just step in and start earning authority. Easy street. Except it's never easy when the foundation is someone else's favor. Statistics, stories from friends, common sense, they all scream the same thing. Shortcuts like this usually end in disaster. You get comfortable, you stop pushing yourself, you tie your professional worth to a personal relationship. And when that relationship cracks, because they almost always do when built on control and obligation, the professional fallout hits hardest. I took the job. Of course I did. Started showing up, trying to prove I deserved it anyway. Told myself I'd earn their respect the old-fashioned way. Told myself it was just practical. But every time her dad asked how things were going at our company, every time Anna smiled and said,
Dad really helped us.
I felt the hook sink a little deeper. I was dumb again. Big ears flapping in the wind, happily trotting along the path someone else had paved, convinced it led to happiness. It didn't. It led exactly where you'd expect when you let other people write your story for you. While I was at work one ordinary day, Anna took my passport. I still don't know exactly how she got it without asking. And, through some acquaintances, submitted our marriage application to the registry office. No ceremony, no discussion, no me standing there signing anything. Just done. Quietly, efficiently, irreversibly. She framed it later as the ultimate proof of love.
See? I couldn't wait to be with you in sickness and in health.
I actually bought that line for a second. Romantic, right? A girl so eager she couldn't bear another day without being officially mine. Then came the complaints, delivered with that signature wounded pout.
I'm a girl, I want romance, and I'm not getting any from you. My university friends keep asking how you proposed, and I have to stay silent because it's embarrassing to tell the truth.
The word embarrassing hit me like a brick. I internalized it instantly. Felt ashamed of myself. Ashamed that I hadn't knelt on some Parisian bridge at sunset with a string quartet in the background. Ashamed that my proposal, the one I'd staged with flowers and a ring at 10 a.m. while she was still half asleep, wasn't cinematic enough. I apologized. Promised to do better. Told myself I really was falling short as a man. Looking back, that shame wasn't about romance. It was about having no solid core, no real boundaries, no firm principles, no unshakable sense of self. When you're that malleable, when your values are still half-formed, anyone can sculpt you however they like. And she and her mother sculpted with expert hands. The wedding itself we paid for 50-50. Well, we and her dad, who quietly covered most of the bigger expenses. Logical next question, where do we live afterward? My savings, the down payment I'd been hoarding for years, were locked in a bank account with a 4-month withdrawal notice. No touching them early without massive penalties. Her mom, ever helpful, suggested we move in with them.
Why waste money on rent when there's plenty of space here? It'll be temporary, just until you're settled.
Bets, anyone? I moved in. Boxes, clothes, my entire life squeezed into what used to be her childhood bedroom. Super convenient, super romantic, super predictable. Living under their roof stripped away any illusions. I finally saw the machinery up close. Anna spent maybe 90% of her waking hours glued to her mother. Shopping trips, beauty salons, endless hours at the kitchen table with laptops open, scrolling social media, stalking classmates' pages, watching trashy streams, psychic reality shows, gay vloggers, whatever was trending. All while preparing for tomorrow's university class. Dad? Still out from dawn till dusk, renovating apartments, no days off, body breaking slowly under the load. He was the engine. They were the passengers. Anna would finish her degree with a red diploma, her golden ticket, her lifelong trump card. I'm an educated woman with honors. That would be her identity forever, even if real independence terrified her. She wasn't built for it. Never had to be. First husband appeared, carried the load for a while. Then me. If I ever left, there'd be a third. There always is. Plenty of men willing to play pack mule for a pretty girl and her controlling mother. Her dad's repair bee
Using is paid surprisingly well. High-end Euro renovations for wealthy clients bring serious money, even if the work is brutal. Summers at the sea every year. Designer clothes, elite cosmetics, premium everything. When I showed up with my modest wardrobe, they looked at me like I'd crawled out of a dumpster. Not because the brands were cheap, because I was the wrong kind of man in their eyes. Not flashy enough, not submissive enough yet.
In the rare moments we were alone, we watched her favorite movies. Mine?
Maybe next time.
My tastes, my opinions, my needs, always deferred. You can't keep folding yourself smaller and smaller, hoping one day she'll unfold you and say, "Okay, now I see you as an equal." That's not how it works. You just become the doormat they wipe their feet on while keeping the nice rug clean for guests. Our monthly anniversaries simply shifted to wedding date anniversaries. Gifts got more expensive. Complaints got louder. I didn't pay enough attention, didn't say I love you often enough, didn't come out to the kitchen to chat with her and her mom, didn't ask how their day went. My phone was full of syrupy messages that could induce diabetes, yet somehow it was never enough. Sex started hot, frequent, curious, open to experimenting. She even initiated sometimes. Over months it narrowed. 3 positions max, one of which she openly disliked but did for me. No hair pulling, no spanking. That's degrading. Blowjobs became a rare favor. Public affection? Suddenly full of new rules. Kiss here, not there. Hold hands this way, not that. When I asked why the restrictions multiplied, she smiled sweetly.
Before you were just my boyfriend. I couldn't demand anything. Now you're my husband.
Hold.
W touching. And when we fought, which happened more and more, her mother played peacemaker. She'd come to me privately, sit me down like a child, explain in calm, reasonable tones exactly how I was wrong, what I'd done to hurt her daughter, and how I should apologize. Properly, sincerely, with flowers, preferably. I'd nod, I'd apologize, I'd buy the flowers. Because by then, saying no felt impossible. I was already so deep inside their system, I couldn't see the exit anymore. My mother-in-law started calling my mom directly, her voice dripping with theatrical concern, like she was narrating a soap opera tragedy.
Oh, Alex hurt Anna again. He's just so thoughtless sometimes.
It was all drama, no details, just enough to plant seeds of doubt. And my parents? They weren't the type to fire back, to defend me aggressively or call out the manipulation. They listened, sighed, suggested I try harder to communicate. Neutral groundkeepers, keeping the peace at any cost. Which, in hindsight, just let the erosion continue unchecked. The mother-in-law always seemed to know every intimate detail of our fights before I even had a chance to process them. She'd pull me aside like a kindly aunt, dispensing wisdom on how a real loving husband should behave. And who was her shining example? Anna's dad, of course, the devoted provider, the silent martyr, the man who never stepped out of line. She'd paint him as the gold standard, selfless, enduring, unbreakable in his love. Those kitchen chats became a ritual. I'd wander out for a glass of tea late at night, and there she'd be, perched at the table, ready with another life lesson laced with barely veiled contempt. Stories soaked in benevolent sexism, where women were eternal queens and men were lucky to kneel. One in particular stuck with me, a tale within the tale that she recounted almost verbatim, her eyes gleaming with the satisfaction of a well-rehearsed sermon. I'll try to capture it as she told it.
Back in our university days, your father-in-law fell head over heels for me. He was so smitten, he practically camped outside my dorm room door every night, begging for a chance. I sent him packing over and over, told him to get lost, that I wasn't interested. But then, one day, it hit me. I loved him too. Deep down, he was the one. He was a promising soccer player back then, scouted for a real team, friends everywhere urging him to chase the dream. But he chose us, dropped it all, quit the sport, cut ties with those so-called friends who were just hangers-on anyway. Family first, always. One time, we had a terrible fight. I packed up our things, little 3-year-old Anna included, and stormed out. Just left, headed straight for the train station to disappear. He spent hours scouring the city, frantic, until he found us on the platform. Fell to his knees right there amid the crowds, sobbing apologies, begging me to come home. Promised he'd never make the same mistake again. And he hasn't, not once. He knows now, one wrong move, and Anna and I could walk out that door for good. It's what keeps a marriage strong, that fear, that respect. He honors me for it every day.
She'd lean back after stories like that, sipping her tea with a serene smile, as if she'd just shared the secret to eternal bliss. Touching, right? The ultimate fairy tale of redemption through submission. Except it wasn't romantic. It was a blueprint for control. A husband broken on his knees at a train station, conditioned to dread abandonment, forever tiptoeing around the threat of it. A man who sacrificed his passions, his body clocking endless hours in back-breaking work, only to come home to a wife who still views him as deficient. Too rough around the edges, too unpolished to fully deserve her. She sits at home, queen of her domain, doing nothing of substance, yet he's the one who's lucky to serve. And God forbid he dares voice his own wants, a hobby, a night out, a moment of rest. He's instantly the villain, drowning in engineered guilt until he apologizes for existing. Do I pity Anna's dad? Not really. He didn't stumble into this blindly. He chose it, step by calculated step, building the cage around himself as much as they locked the door. It's just the brutal truth of so many modern setups. Families where the woman reigns unchallenged, the man toils in silence, and the kids, like Anna, inherit the script without question. It's everywhere if you look. The provider reduced to an ATM with emotions. The homemaker wielding emotional blackmail like a scepter. And the cycle spins on, generation after generation. But here's the real lesson. The one I wish I'd internalized sooner. Don't become part of it. Know what you want, your own dreams, your own boundaries, your own uncompromised self, and refused to trade them for anyone's approval. Spot the patterns early, the stories that glorify groveling, the lessons that demand your surrender. Walk away before the kneeling starts. God, if only I had. Instead, I nodded along over that tea, murmured something agreeable, and went back to bed beside Anna. Another night in the machine, grinding my edges smoother, wondering why it all felt so suffocatingly wrong. 4 months dragged by in that suffocating apartment, every day a reminder of how deep I'd sunk. Finally, the bank let me withdraw my savings. I added the wedding cash, 75% from my relatives, 25% from hers, and went into full panic mode hunting for an apartment. Any apartment. Anything to escape the madhouse. I kept telling myself the same hopeful lie. Once we're alone, just the two of us, everything will fix itself. The real poison was her mother, the controlling, boundary-violating force that had Anna wrapped around her finger like a puppet string. Cut the cord, move out, and my sweet dependent wife would finally breathe, grow, become her own person. Right? Wrong. Hyperdependence isn't some innocent side effect you can blame solely on a bad mom while giving the daughter a free pass. If a 20-year-old girl hears mom's waiting for us on the 3rd date and simply shrugs, takes your hand, and leads you home without once saying, "Mom, what the hell, that's insane," then that's not just dependence, that's complicity, that's normalization of something deeply unhealthy. She didn't question it because she didn't see anything wrong with it. And no amount of distance, across the city, across the country, across an ocean, would change that. She'd still be on video calls for hours, still running every decision through mom's filter, still measuring my worth by how well I fit the family script. We found a decent place. Not perfect, but livable. I rushed through the mortgage paperwork, signed everything, felt a flicker of relief. Cosmetic refresh, a quick coat of paint, new floors, and we could move in within weeks. Freedom. Anna had other ideas.
We need a full renovation. Capital Works. Dad's a builder. He'll help.
2 days later, I walked in and nearly dropped my keys. The place was gutted. Bare concrete walls, ripped up flooring, exposed wiring dangling like entrails. Her dad had gone full demolition mode. No discussion, no plan, just destruction. And he didn't stop. After his regular 10 to 12-hour shifts renovating other people's luxury apartments, he'd come straight here, nights, weekends, no breaks. Hammering, sawing, hauling debris until midnight. The man was a machine. Naturally, the expectation trickled down to me.
Why aren't you there more often?
Don't you want to move in faster?
Why are you sleeping so late on weekends? A real man gets up early.
The guilt trips landed harder each time. And the worst part? They weren't entirely baseless. I'd already let the invasion happen. I hadn't said no when her dad showed up with tools and started tearing the place apart. I hadn't drawn the line. "Thank you, but we'll handle this ourselves." I'd stayed silent, swallowed my objections, let them steamroll. So consistency demanded I show up too. Roll up my sleeves, swing a hammer alongside him, prove I wasn't just freeloading off his sweat while I lounged. But honestly, I didn't want to. Not really. Deep down, part of me still felt superior to the situation, like I was above the grunt work, above the family dynamic that had turned him into a workhorse. I was tired from my office job, which, let's be real, wasn't backbreaking. I deserved rest. Let him hammer. I'd earned my sleep. That attitude? It made their accusations sting because they rang partially true. If I wasn't willing to fight for control of our future home, if I wasn't ready to stand up and say, "This is our space, our rules," then yeah, I was benefiting from his labor while contributing the bare minimum. Hypocritical. Weak. The right move, the consistent one, would have been one of two paths. 1. Say no from the start. We appreciate the offer, but we're doing this ourselves. No need to get involved. Sure, it would have blown up. Shit would have hit every fan in the building. But at least I'd have owned my boundaries. Or, two, since I'd already caved, commit fully. Show up every evening, every weekend. Work until my hands bled. Because if the goal was truly to escape her mother's orbit as fast as possible, then I should have been the one demolishing walls at dawn, not napping while her exhausted father did it. I chose neither. I half-assed it, went occasionally, painted a wall here, carried some bags there, enough to deflect the worst accusations, but never enough to speed things up meaningfully. I resented the pressure, resented him for enabling it, resented her for expecting it, and most of all, resented myself for lacking the spine to either stop it or dive in. The renovation dragged on for months. Money bled out. Deadlines slipped. And every unfinished corner of that gutted apartment became a mirror reflecting exactly who I'd become. A man too afraid to say no, too comfortable to say yes, too spineless to choose. We were still living with her parents, still under the same roof, still breathing the same poisoned air. And the longer it went, the clearer it became. Moving out wouldn't fix anything. The poison wasn't just in the mother. It was in the wife who'd learned to love the taste. And it was in me, for drinking it willingly, day after day, telling myself it was only temporary. It wasn't. One perfect spring day, Anna and I were strolling through the park, sun filtering through the leaves, birds chirping, the usual postcard scene. Two little boys, maybe 7 years old, came sprinting past us, waving bright plastic toy guns and yelling bang bang at each other in pure, chaotic joy. Anna stopped dead, her face twisted into that familiar mix of disapproval and moral superiority. She huffed, crossed her arms.
Can you believe parents let their kids play with weapons? Teaching them violence and aggression from such a young age? It's disgusting.
I chuckled at first, thought she was half joking, exaggerating for effect like she sometimes did. But she kept going, voice rising just enough to make it clear this wasn't casual commentary.
Our son will never have anything like that. No guns, no swords, no toy soldiers. He'll play with cars, maybe building blocks. We need to raise children kind, gentle, peaceful. That's what matters.
Kind, gentle, peaceful. The same words her mother loved to sprinkle into every conversation like holy water. They lived in a bubble where they were the sole arbiters of universal goodness. Everyone else was either barbaric or unenlightened. I tried to brush it off. Come on, it's just toys. Boys play rough sometimes. It's normal. She shot me a look that said I'd just confessed to supporting war crimes. Back home, the topic didn't die. It multiplied. Anna brought it straight to her mother, and within minutes, they were tag-teaming me from opposite sides of the kitchen table. Two voices in perfect harmony, finishing each other's sentences.
Our future son will definitely do ballroom dancing.
Anna declared, as if it were already written in the family Bible. Her mother nodded vigorously.
Yes, exactly. It develops grace, discipline, posture. Real men know how to move elegantly. None of this running around with guns like little savages.
I opened my mouth to protest. Something mild, like, let's not decide his entire childhood before he's even conceived. But the words barely left my lips before they were drowned out.
You should be grateful we're not forcing you into ballroom dancing right now.
Anna added with a little laugh, as though it were a cute joke.
If we really wanted to, you'd already be in those shiny shoes and tight pants twirling around.
They both giggled. I forced a smile, but inside something cold settled in my stomach. Because she wasn't entirely wrong. If they'd decided I needed grace and discipline, I'd have ended up there too. Smiling through gritted teeth, convinced it was for my own good. My opinion had become background noise long ago. A temporary objection they could talk me out of, given enough time and repetition. Eventually, I'd start parroting their lines myself. Yeah, ballroom dancing builds character. It's good for boys.
That way,
It's the real horror. Not the specific plan, but how effortlessly they erased my voice. How my no always softened into maybe, then okay, fine, then actually, it's a great idea. And then came the cherry on top. Anna leaned forward, eyes narrowing like she was delivering the final verdict.
You do realize you're only working one job right now, right? We're already barely scraping by. What happens when the baby comes? You think we'll magically have more money? Or are you planning to send me back to work right after giving birth, with a newborn, while I'm breastfeeding? Really?
Her mother chimed in on cue.
A real man provides. He makes sure his family doesn't suffer. One salary isn't enough anymore, not with a child on the way.
I sat there, tea cooling in my hands, staring at the table. They weren't asking. They were informing me of the new reality they'd already constructed. My income, my career choices, my future workload. None of it was up for discussion. It was already decided that I'd need to hustle harder, earn more, sacrifice more. Because that's what husbands do in their world. They provide, they endure, they shut up and swing the hammer, or in this case, chase the second job. And me? I didn't argue, didn't push back, just nodded slowly, mumbled something about looking into options, and felt another piece of myself quietly dissolve. Because by then, saying no felt like shouting into a vacuum. They'd already won the argument, in their heads, in the script, in the life they were writing for all of us. The park, the toy guns, the ballroom dreams, the salary lecture. It was all the same pattern. They decided what goodness looked like, what masculinity looked like, what fatherhood looked like. And I was just the guy who'd eventually agree to wear the costume. Financial strain hit like a slow-motion avalanche. Almost half my salary vanished into the mortgage every month. The rest got devoured by the endless renovation bills. Materials, tools, subcontractors when her dad couldn't do it all alone. And then there was Anna's slice. Manicures, pedicures, facials, hair treatments, endless self-care appointments that somehow cost more than groceries and utilities combined. I stopped asking where the money went. The answer was always the same quiet shrug and a new receipt on the kitchen counter. One evening, trying to claw back some sanity, I asked about her wedding dress hanging in the closet like a ghost. "We'll never wear it again. Why not sell it? It's from that fancy boutique. Could get good money back." Her eyes widened in genuine horror.
You can't sell a wedding dress. When a bride sells it, she sells her fate along with it.
I stared, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. She was dead serious. Superstition wrapped in white satin, and I was supposed to nod along like it made perfect sense. Then, because curiosity is a cruel master, I asked the follow-up. "What about the dress from your first wedding?" That one was twice as expensive, roughly my monthly salary. She answered without blinking.
Dad took it to work and burned it in the furnace, so my life would never be tied to that marriage again.
Burned. In a literal furnace. I laughed once, short, disbelieving, then realized she wasn't joking. Her father had ritually incinerated several $1,000s worth of fabric to sever some invisible karmic cord. And somehow that was normal in their world. The isolation crept in quietly at first. Casual meetups with friends became battlegrounds.
They're not real friends, they're just drinking buddies.
She'd say, voice soft but edged.
You don't need that energy.
Attempts to go out alone turned into interrogations. Who, where, how long, why without her? A couple of times I caught her scrolling my phone in secret, fixating on a 3-year-old like from an old acquaintance.
Who is she? Why did you like her photo?
No context mattered. The like itself was proof of betrayal. One afternoon, I walked past the kitchen and overheard them dissecting Anna's classmate and her boyfriend. The girl was hesitating about marriage because he kept messing up. Her mother leaned in, voice low and wise.
She should just get pregnant. Have the baby first. Then he'll either step up and be a proper husband or he won't. But at least there's a child.
Picture.
Perfect modern wisdom. Trap him with a kid, then train him like a dog. If he behaves, great. If not, well, you already have leverage. That same evening, after another mechanically polite round of sex, Anna curled against me and started talking children.
I want to be a young mom. Not wait until I'm 27 and everything's harder. We should start soon.
My heart problems, the ones that vanished in my teens, had crept back. Nothing dramatic, just occasional tightness, skipped beats. The doctor prescribed strengthening meds. They seemed to help. Then came the 24-hour Holter monitor, the referral for more tests. I kept it quiet at home, didn't want the drama. During lunch one day, mother-in-law appeared at the table while the monitor wires poked out from under my shirt.
Don't worry, Alex. I'm not hoping you have issues at work, but I do care about what's happening between you and Anna.
Then, without prompting, she launched into a lecture. Anna doesn't enjoy certain intimate acts anymore. It's hard for women. A real husband understands, adjusts, doesn't demand. Translation: scale back your expectations, boy. I went to bed early that night. Didn't speak to anyone. Just lay there staring at the ceiling, wires taped to my chest, listening to my own defective heartbeat. Summer arrived like a tease. Anna and her mom started planning their annual sea trip, the sacred tradition. My presence wasn't requested, only my wallet was. Tickets, hotel, food, excursions, all on me. One salary wasn't enough anymore. They needed both my paychecks to keep the vacation dream alive. They booked for the 21st, my birthday. I double-checked the date. Why the 21st?
So, we leave on the 21st, arrive Monday. Easier to count hotel days.
My birthday wasn't even a footnote. They remembered it 3 days before departure, when Anna reminded me. No passionate goodbye kisses at the station.
It's vulgar in public.
I obeyed. Gave her a chaste peck on the lips and watched her disappear through security. A week earlier, they'd bought a purebred kitten, another obligation I hadn't signed up for. Her dad watched it like a hawk when we were home. Otherwise, it was my problem. My own family? I hadn't seen my parents or sister in months. On the 22nd, my actual birthday, Mom invited me over. Proper celebration, cake, family. I went. Half an hour in, my phone lit up. Anna.
You're still at your parents'? The kitten is alone. Come home now.
I told her the cat would survive a few hours. I wanted to spend my birthday with my family for once. Instant meltdown on the line. Tears, screams, threats.
If you don't leave right now, I'll call Dad and make him drop everything.
I hung up, turned the phone to silent. Let the calls stack up, stayed another 2 hours. Laughed, ate cake, felt human for the first time in ages. When I finally walked back into their apartment, her father was waiting in the hallway, face red, fists clenched.
Let's talk.
He unloaded, called me every name in the book. Selfish, lazy. I let him slave away on our renovation while I partied. I went to the apartment only every other day. Ungrateful piece of shit. He slapped the keys on the table.
This apartment isn't yours. Pack your things and get off to your relatives.
I started gathering belongings. Part of me wanted to argue, stand my ground, explain why I had every right to see my own family on my birthday. But what was the point? He'd already decided I was the villain. And honestly, my answers felt weak even to me. Why hadn't I rushed home the second she called? Why wasn't I there every single day swinging a hammer? If I believed I was 100% right, why hadn't I fought harder from the beginning? He came back into the room, shoved his phone at me. Anna already dialed.
Talk to her. Tell her you're not living here anymore.
She picked up surprisingly calm.
Dad decided.
I could have screamed the truth. All 3 of you can go to hell. Instead, I mumbled agreement and ended the call. The next 2 weeks, I buried myself in work, tried to rediscover hobbies. A new Marvel movie came out. My old friend Daniel hadn't seen it yet. I messaged an old friend from the group, Olga, another diehard fan. We chatted. She sent a funny photo, her under a hospital blanket with cartoon flowers, IV drip in frame.
Undercover mission, ugly hospital gown edition.
I asked which hospital wanted to visit. She dodged, laughed it off. Moving day for Anna arrived. I went to our half-finished apartment first, cleared out construction debris, stared at the bare walls, imagined camping there with no hot water. Spartan, but mine. Then straight to her parents' place to end it formally. She cut me off at the door.
You're filthy. Go shower first. I'm not talking to you like this.
I stood there, covered in dust, exhausted, and realized no amount of money in the world would make me step over that threshold again. Not for clothes, not for documents, not for dignity. If they wouldn't mail my stuff, I'd buy replacements. Anything to never cross that line again. She was sitting on the couch, my phone in her hand. She turned the screen toward me. The chat with Olga.
You cheated on me emotionally. I can never forgive that.
I was stunned. She'd cracked my new password, scrolled back through innocent messages. A week later, a message from her.
I knew you wouldn't admit your mistakes, so we'll do this the hard way.
She named her price. Roughly 60,000 euros, abstract figure for clarity, to buy out my share of the apartment I'd paid almost entirely for. Otherwise, she'd let the bank take it. No one owes anyone anything. I scraped together the money, went into debt, borrowed from everywhere, brought it to her. She replied,
I had it appraised, without me present, of course, but legally. Dad's renovation work, not 60,000, a 100,000.
I told her to go to hell. Instant follow-up call.
This is Anna's mum. Anna was just joking. You didn't get it.
Poker face cracked. Bluff called. Mom realized the play failed. Anna demanded one more thing. That I go to my boss, her dad's friend, and confess everything. The divorce. The emotional cheating with Olga. Full transparency. I refused. But I did go to him myself. Better he hear it from me than whatever twisted version they'd spin. He looked at me like I'd lost my mind.
Why are you telling me this? It has zero to do with your work. You're a good employee. Nothing changes.
A small mercy. A rare exception to the rule. Jobs handed out through connections often get revoked the same way. This time, it didn't. I walked out of that office lighter than I'd felt in years. The story wasn't over. Not quite. But the cage door had finally swung open. And for the first time, I didn't hesitate to step through it. I kept working, head down, trying to rebuild some semblance of normal. A couple of hours later, my phone buzzed. A message from my ex-mother-in-law dripping with the usual theatrical venom.
How could you do this? You have no heart. Anna had a nervous breakdown. We had to call an ambulance. If anything happens to her, I will never forgive you.
I stared at the screen for maybe 3 seconds. Then I deleted the message and went back to what I was doing. No reply, no guilt spike, just nothing. The hook had finally come loose. The divorce was ugly, screaming matches, accusations flying like shrapnel, lawyers trading barbs. I paid what she demanded to keep the apartment, the one I'd mostly funded, re-registered it solely in my name, and walked away. Clean break. Or as clean as it gets when you've spent years marinating in someone else's script. Then life did something unexpected. It introduced Catherine. She was beautiful in that effortless way. Sharp eyes, quick laugh, the kind of humor that cuts without wounding. We matched on a dating app, started chatting, and within days the conversation turned flirty, dirty, teasing. I found myself typing things I'd never said out loud before. Testing edges, pushing frames just to see what happened. It felt foreign, almost like wearing someone else's skin. But the curiosity was electric. Why not try being the guy who doesn't apologize for wanting? Why not lead instead of follow? On our third date, we decided on pizza at a cozy little spot downtown. We walked in, picked a table near the window, ordered, and that's when I saw her. Anna, sitting 2 tables away with a new guy. Her hand on his arm, laughing too loudly, performing the same role she'd played with me. First instinct, bolt. Second instinct, Catherine would ask questions. I didn't want to lie, didn't want to explain, so I did the simplest, bravest thing possible. I ignored her, completely, turned my full attention to the woman across from me, smiled, leaned in, kissed her right there in the middle of the restaurant. No hesitation, no glance sideways. Catherine grinned against my lips, then pulled back just enough to whisper,
Of course you can kiss in public. Just not like that couple over there. Looks like she's about to devour him.
She nodded toward Anna's table. We both burst out laughing, quiet, conspiratorial, the kind of laugh that seals something between 2 people. The competition was on, unspoken but real. Anna noticed us eventually. Her smile froze for half a second. Then she leaned harder into her date, performative as ever.
The rest of the evening was perfect. Catherine said she could stay out later.
I'll just take a cab home.
I told her I had a surprise. We ended up at my place. The apartment finally finished. No more exposed wires or paint cans. We had sex that felt like freedom, mutual, hungry. No rules except the ones we made together in the moment. 4 months later, a mutual acquaintance sent me a screenshot from Anna's Instagram. A ring on her finger. Captioned something about 3rd time's the charm. She was 23. I typed back one line. Not interested. Please don't send me stuff like this anymore. He didn't. So here's the closing question, the one that still hangs in the air like smoke. Who's the bigger fool? The guy trying to sell a piss-soaked old mattress at the flea market? Or the guy who actually buys it? I used to be the buyer, over and over. Paid full price, told myself it was love. Now I'm not buying anymore. Catherine and I are still together. We argue sometimes, we laugh more. She doesn't need me to perform romance on a schedule. I don't need her to dictate the rules. We just exist. Together. Without a script. It's not perfect. I still catch myself slipping into old patterns sometimes, apologizing too quickly, second-guessing my own wants. Rewiring a brain that spent years learning to fold takes longer than any self-help book promises. But the direction is right. Respect for myself isn't a switch I flipped overnight. It's a muscle I'm training every day. To anyone still stuck in that cycle, the light at the end of the tunnel isn't some grand epiphany. It's small choices. Saying no when your gut screams it. Walking away when the door finally opens. Letting yourself be the guy who kisses in public without checking for permission first. You'll get there, not fast, but you will. And when you do, the mattress stays at the market. Someone else can buy it. Thanks for reading this far. If any of this hit home, drop a like, share a thought, subscribe if you haven't. New video drops tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves. Peace.